Okay, let's get started. Welcome everyone to the reissued RFA information session. Um, I'm going to cover a few slides and then open it up for questions. So the purpose of the information session today is to talk through any of the changes we've made to the issued RFA that you have questions about, and answer those questions and describe the reapplication process. We are not going to be using the time today to discuss the future of the co-op program beyond this 6-month RFA. We'll have those conversations, many conversations with partners and other stakeholders in 2024. I believe most of you are well acquainted with the program, but it's the Salt Lake Center of Opportunity Partnership, which is funded by the American Rescue Plan Act. The mission is to cultivate an ecosystem that works in unison to support the resiliency, sustainability, capacity, and readiness for growth of opportunity businesses. Opportunity businesses access resources through the ecosystem to achieve their goals of a successful business. So opportunity businesses are connected with the resources that are necessary to thrive by working throughout the co-op outreach and service partners. Those are the two different RFAs that are currently open, outreach and service partners. So opportunity businesses are those small businesses from communities that face lower economic opportunity due to income, race, gender, disability, or other factors. Outreach partners are chambers of commerce and other community partners that have strong existing relationships with opportunity businesses. And service partners are those who provide services such as bookkeeping, legal assistance, permitting assistance, workshops, and other training necessary to support these small businesses. So an update on the timeline here. We reissued the RFA on November 8th. We're having the webinar today. And then by Tuesday, November 21st, either the attestation forms that you want to roll over your application are due, or you can submit a new or revised application. And those are due by 5 p.m. The selection committee will meet the week after Thanksgiving to make selections and award amounts. We'll announce those awards in early December. And then our goal is to have the contract signed by December 22nd. And then the partner onboarding and orientation will happen in January 2024. If you have already applied, I want to be very clear, you don't need to change anything in your application. We can roll those over. So although you are welcome to make changes if you'd like to. So I'm going to talk through what the attestation form includes. So most of the changes, for those who've reviewed, you'll see most of the changes are in the outreach RFA, but there are a couple of things that are the same for both outreach and business service partners. For both RFAs, we've added an explicit statement that this is the final RFA for this program model, meaning this exact combination of service partners, outreach organizations, navigators, all of that. So we'll be doing some rethinking on that. The period of performance has been shortened to 6 months. It'll now be January through the end of June. The community of practice meetings will now be quarterly instead of monthly, and those will be meetings that include all of the outreach and business service partners. We've removed the required capacity building and leadership training. One of the bigger changes, the county is no longer responsible for supervising navigators, and on a related point, there's no longer a requirement for weekly trainings and weekly meetings with navigators. We still have the navigator job description on our website as a guide. It's a strong recommendation for the types of skills that would be well suited for this position, but it's no longer a requirement. We've increased the admin costs allowed to 10% of the award for outreach since we're no longer doing the supervision. And we've moved the onboarding and orientation to January. For the business services, as you can see, a shorter list. The first two are the same, and this is the final iteration with this program model, shortened to 6 months from January to June. We won't be considering new requests for service types in this RFA, so if you anticipated requesting additional services be covered in next year, that might be an indication that you should revise your application instead of rolling it over to include it in this request, because we won't be considering new requests in 2024. The community of practice will include our business outreach partners now. And similarly, the onboarding and orientation have moved to January. All of these documents are online, so I'm going to talk through what they are. We have both of the RFAs in the revised form. We also included copies of those RFAs with tracked changes, so you can see exactly what we have largely removed. We added a few words to make sentences work, but it's mostly was just a redlining, removing content from the RFAs. The attestation forms, those are the forms to have your application rolled over. Those are also online, 2 documents. And then for those who are either new and want to submit a whole new application, or if you want to revise your application, those forms are also online. It will be the same process as before, where you would fill out those documents, and then there's the smart sheet where you would submit. This is on the left what the attestation form looks like. It's just a 1-page form for each RFA. Go ahead if you would like to do this. There are a couple questions at the top to make sure that you agree to what it means to roll over your application, and then acknowledgement of the specific changes. To have your past application considered, just fill out this form and email this to Teresa Young by the deadline of Tuesday, November 21st at 5 p.m. If you want to revise your application, you can follow the RFA instructions that are in the RFA, and this short link will also take you to the Smartsheet page that has the links to submit your application type. Just a final reminder, all of this is due November 21st at 5 p.m. I realize this is a shortened timeline and it'll happen quickly. We've done this because we wanted the deadline before Thanksgiving. We don't want anyone to ruin their holiday working on this application. So if you have questions, this would be the time to talk about it. And otherwise, we look forward to seeing your applications. Are there any questions from anyone?
Saskia.
Yes.
So this is Rick Haskell at Westminster. We were asked to provide some clarifying detail on our original application, and it turned out to be a relatively substantial amount of detail. Would you recommend that we simply go ahead and complete the attestation form, or would you recommend that we edit our original application to include that clarifying detail that was asked afterwards, so that it is a singular piece that stands on its own?
I have a thought, but Teresa, I was going to kick this to you first, and then if you want, I can. I would be interested in that detail. So I think I would recommend resubmitting your application, but Teresa, do you agree?
That makes sense to us, Teresa. I just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Sorry,
Oh, we can't hear you. If you mute the volume on your computer and use the phone, it should be okay.
Okay, there. Sorry, WebEx, love the WebEx, but I'm having technical difficulties, obviously, with sound. You know, Rick, that's a great question, and I don't want our applicants to go through all extra work to resubmit their application, but it would be streamlined. We'd prefer that, but I will make sure that the clarification questions are combined with the application response so that it's there, regardless if you submit an application or not. So that's not very firm, other than we prefer it, but I'll make sure it's there.
Teresa, are you saying then that as long as there's an attestation form included, the clarification questions will also roll over with the application?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you, Teresa. candidly, the effort to combine these into one single document is not significant. So we'll go ahead and submit the attestation, but give you the backup of an edited unified document for your convenience.
That's perfect, Rick.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Very
preferred, and
good.
that's not required. It'll roll over with attestation if needed on those that don't resubmit. But thank you, Rick. Yeah.
Certainly, thank you.
So quick clarification, Teresa, we could probably consider all of the clarification responses as part of the original application.
Yes, we
Okay.
can. It is.
So,
In fact, it is considered.
yeah,
Even though
so
it's in a separate format, it is considered part of the original application and will roll over with the attestation.
okay. So anyone else besides Rick's team, anyone else who responded to clarification questions can be assured that we will incorporate that into their earlier package. So thank you.
If they submit their it's to be considered.
We're getting some keyboard noises in the background. Thanks.
I have a quick clarification question. So I think it was stated that there won't be accepting new service types. Will you just clarify for the partners who are putting in applications for services what that means?
Sure. So in the previous RFA, the way it had been written before, you would submit the services that you wanted to offer to opportunity businesses, and then the county would take a look at that application and either approve all or a subset of those for reimbursement. So what we're saying, we had left open the door though that in the program year, if you brought new services online or identified new needs with opportunity businesses, that we would consider adding additional services to the menu of options the county would pay for. We'd remove that from the RFA. So if there is a service type that you want to offer from January to June for our opportunity businesses that you think would be of value to them and you want the county to reimburse for that, that would need to be included in your application now. So if you have a new program model in mind, or if you have a set of services that you hadn't included in the original application and you'd like us to consider those for 2024, you would want to revise your application to include those so that we can review those with the selection committee. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thanks for the clarification. Because clarifying that it's for in the year as opposed to part of the application.
Yes, yeah. So I think the bottom line is that this RFA is the sort of last window of opportunity to introduce new elements to your program and your application. Those won't be considered in the new year in those 6 months.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I did receive one question by email that I'll just restate here to be clear. Somebody asked if applying for this RFA precludes them from applying to other funding sources of the county. Absolutely does not. This is independent. So you can apply for this and you're still eligible to apply for all the other RFAs and RFPs the county has. If there are no other questions, you're all very welcome to drop off if you want. I'm going to stay online and keep this open. So if you think of anything before 10:30, you're welcome to jump back in.
Saskia, very much. I will jump off, but if you need me, just message me and I'll watch for those and respond accordingly.
Great. Thank you, Teresa.
You bet. Thanks, everyone.
So Kirsten, since it appears that the more organized and formal part of our meeting is over, I'm going to be bold enough to suppose that we're now into that period of time where we can ask a question about the future of the co-op program or what might replace it. Are you at liberty to give us anything at all?
Hang on, sorry, Rick. We're still recording. This is technically still going to be just the RFA webinar. Yeah, sorry.
It's okay. I just thought I would stretch.
Right. Try for it. I totally get it. So I think we'll be able to, we got to get through this RFA period, close the RFA, and then we can, kind of go into some of those conversations.
Okay. But notice I asked permission before asking.
I do appreciate that you tried. Yeah. Yes, definitely. And Saskia, I'm just kind of working on a few other things in the background, but here, in case Rick tries again. Just kidding.
No, I'm relatively obedient when I've been instructed.
That's great.
Did anyone that's on now miss the beginning, or did everyone that's on now catch everything?
Saskia, you were so efficient. We could just run this 10-minute on repeat, for the next, 70 minutes.
This is Marianne. I did miss a little of the beginning. I apologize for being late.
We'll go back. We'll do it again. Let's see. Oh wait, I know what's going on. Sorry, I'm fighting with a couple screens here. Great. Well, for those of you who have just joined us, I'll go through my 13 slides here. So we have reissued the RFA, as I think you're all aware. That's why you're here. The purpose of the discussion today is to talk about the changes to the reissued RFA and answer any questions you have that are specific to that RFA and the reapplication process, or the application process for anyone who's new. We're not going to be discussing the future of the co-op program beyond this RFA in today's session. We anticipate having many, many conversations with you all after this RFA closes and in 2024. This program overview, it's the Salt Lake Center for Opportunity Partnership. It's an American Rescue Plan Act funded initiative. The mission is to cultivate an ecosystem that works in unison to support the resiliency, sustainability, capacity, and readiness for growth of opportunity businesses. Opportunity businesses can access resources through the ecosystem to achieve their goals of a successful business. I won't read all of these again, but because I think you're all familiar, there are sort of three key players here: the opportunity businesses themselves, our outreach partners, and our service partners, who all work together to support businesses. So the reissued RFA timeline, this was posted on November 8th. The webinar we're doing is today, and then on the 21st at 5 p.m., we either need to receive new applications or your attestation form that you would like your previous application for 2024 to roll into the new RFA. We set up the attestation forms to make it very easy to roll over into the new RFA. So if you don't have any substantive changes you want to make, that would be a great option. Our goal is to make this relatively painless as possible. So the end of November, we'll do have a selection committee meetings for the two different RFAs, the one for business services and the other one for outreach. We'll announce awards in early December. Our goal is to have contracts signed by December 22nd, and then the onboarding and orientation will happen in January. You'll see most of the changes were made to the outreach RFA. This is just a summary. The full versions are online. So for both RFAs, just a note, this is the final RFA for this program model. The period of performance has been shortened to be January to June, so 6 months of operations. The community practice meetings had been scheduled for monthly. For outreach, we've moved those to quarterly, and they will include our business service partners. The required capacity building and leadership training has been removed. The main change here is that the county is no longer responsible for supervising navigators. And as such, the navigator weekly training and the weekly meeting requirements have been removed. And then the job description that we posted is still online. If it's a useful guide, it's no longer a requirement, but just a strong recommendation. We've also increased the admin costs allowed to 10% of the award, understanding that you now have more responsibilities with supervising your navigators. And then the onboarding and orientation has moved to January. A shorter list for business services. First two are the same. And then the third point, requests for new service types won't be considered after this RFA closes. I'll just repeat the clarification Cleopatra requested in case you weren't on for that, which is in the past RFAs, we've said that we would be open during the year to considering new business services from business service partners as you either identify new needs and already have services, or as you bring new service models online. We want to clarify for here, though, if you want a business service to be considered for reimbursement from the county as part of co-op, you'll need to include it in this application. We won't be considering one-off requests into 2024. And then the community practice will now include business outreach partners, and we've moved the onboarding and orientation to January. All of these documents are available online at the county website, the Small Business Assistance page. If you scroll on down, you'll see information about how to apply and all of these links. We have the revised RFAs up there, but we have also included the tracked changes version. So for those who applied to the previous RFA and want to see what exactly we have changed, you can look at those. Those are redlined. If you just want to read the cleaner version, that's fine too. So we provided both. If you are resubmitting an application or submitting a new application, those documents are here online to be filled out, and then you would submit them through the Smartsheet form. And then we also have these, what we're calling attestation forms for those who have applied for the previous RFA. That includes anyone who missed the deadline of the previous RFA but did submit a full application. You can now ask to have that application rolled into this new reissued RFA. So these attestation forms are just one page to make sure that you understand the changes, the key changes we've made, and that you would like to roll over your application instead of resubmitting. And those forms would be emailed to Teresa Young with Contracts and Procurement. The deadline on this is the same, so Tuesday, November 21st at 5 p.m. Just another reminder. We've already received a few attestation forms. It's meant to be easy and painless. So if you are still in full support of your previous application and just want us to consider that, this is the easiest way forward, is to submit that attestation form. And then as Rick asked and Teresa clarified, if you had applied before and were asked for clarification questions from the previous selection committee, those answers to your clarification questions will roll over with your application as well. Any questions?
No, thank you for reviewing that again. So if we just wanted to let it lie, we complete the attestation form and we email that into Teresa. There's not a a SharePoint form for that. It's just that document, fill it out and email it to Teresa.
Yeah, it's that one-page document. Note there are two different attestation forms, one for outreach and one for business services. So if anyone has applied for both, you will need to fill out both forms.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hey, apologies, I had another call at 9, so I was trying to listen in, but also participate in the other call that I had. The question that I had, and I know you probably reviewed this, that I just didn't pick up on, is what the purpose for going to a 6-month contract instead of a year contract.
We're doing a reset of the co-op program. So this is to shorten the program period while our staff work with all of you and others in the community just to rescope a new program model.
So the program will look basically the same up until this summer, and then it will be reformatted.
Correct.
Okay, and then the other question that I had on the attestation, if we are not planning to change anything about our proposal, and we sign the attestation, what about obviously the amount that we asked for? Are you just going to conclude that it will be cut in half, or do we have to basically state that someplace?
The attestation form includes a statement that you acknowledge that we would cut any targets and annual targets and annual budget requests by 50%. If that's not acceptable, if there's a reason it can't just be cut in half, then you would probably want to revise your application and resubmit.
Okay, perfect. And then if you could just clarify, I saw a couple of notes about the statement that co-op will not be responsible for training or working with the navigators. So I'm a little bit confused as to how the outreach service providers will be receiving any sort of referrals if that pipeline is changing substantially to where the county's not involved.
I wouldn't describe it as a substantial change. It's more going back to an earlier version of this program model. The new RFA was going to be much more hands-on than we had been before with weekly meetings and weekly trainings. That's what we're pulling back on. There's still going to be resources and those navigators will be managed by their outreach organization. So there will still be navigators in the ecosystem, still using all the same data systems. It's just not as hands-on.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I might think of another one, but I'll hop back into the meeting if I do. I appreciate this very much.
Of course. Yeah, I'll be here for another hour, so feel free to jump back in.
Perfect. Thank you.
So Beth, just to clarify, oh, she left. Okay. I was going to say, you don't have to hang with us for another hour, Beth, unless you want to, but yeah. Okay. Saskia, thank you for staffing. If anything else pops up or some partners join late, and I'm just a WebEx message away.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
I'm going to mute myself and turn my video off, but I will be here and we're still recording. So if anything comes up, just shout.